So I mean, like, this is a thing that obviously we've both experienced, like as children growing up and like throughout our adult life. But like specifically, like I'm curious because you're in the military. Like, how do you see this manifested in like your day to day life in the workplace, where like there's like this culture of like sort of like built in manliness in being in the military, and like now there's like this big push to sort of change that culture and be more inclusive, and like obviously like in our career field that we were in, like there's a lot of women that do that, but like how do you see that manifest itself, and like how do you sort of like defend against that, or like how do you sort of counteract that in that particular work environment?
So now, man, I think that the whole diversity and inclusion push, I think is great. I love it because being ostracized, you know what I mean, being like set aside because you act outside of like the accepted societal norms is bullshit, man.
Yeah.
Like, if this dude cares about people, if he's a feminist, self-proclaimed feminist, if he is gay,
Yeah.
that don't mean that he's less of a man. That just means
Right.
he's a different man. He's different.
Yeah.
That's it. Yo.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
in
it's,
the military,
and not different, like unusual, different, like Darius is strong and like loud and big, and I am overweight and mostly not very strong and moderately funny. Like, what I'm saying is, like, it's not like different,
not
like
good,
weird
it's not
or bad.
It's
Yeah, it's just
different.
Different, yeah.
It's just different, yo. But in the military, like, one thing that I see in the military played out so often, like every single day, is they're really weird about like their sexuality. And I want to give you an example. Like, cats play gay chicken all the time. Who can be the most gay and make the other guy feel uncomfortable about how gay the situation has become?
That's
and by gay, I
that's
mean
toxic.
homosexual. Yeah. But at the same time, if they work with someone who is actually homosexual,
Yeah.
that person is ostracized, is
Right.
talked about, and is called all types of bitches and weak and emasculated.
Yeah.
But you were literally just talking about putting another man's penis in your mouth to make him feel weird.
Right.
Like, or talking about, oh yeah, man, you know him, he's got a big ding dong or whatever people say, and it's like, yo, dog, like, that is the weirdest thing I've ever experienced, been a part of, seen in my life. How can you, in one breath, say things that are obviously like homosexual in nature, and then condemn somebody for actually living that lifestyle?
Right.
Like,
It doesn't make any sense.
what are you doing? What are you doing? But I guess it's okay because they're saying it as a joke. You know what I'm saying?
I guess.
Or another example of it is just, I can't allow you to see me be weak or frail. So if we're drinking,
Yeah.
if you take a shot and you give me a shot, I got to take that
I'ma
shot,
take the
even if
shot,
I'm
yeah.
drunk.
Yeah.
Even if I am out of my mind,
Yeah.
I got to take that shot because I can't be seen as a bitch, yo.
Yeah.
Like, if I throw up, you know what I mean, then I'm a bitch now, you know.
Well, you're either a bitch or you got to puke and rally and keep going.
You
Like,
know, and you got to come back hard.
Yeah.
You got to
You're not going to be
come back.
incapacitated on a night out. You're going to keep going.
Like, it's wild. And you know what's a funny thing about that, man? I think that we had Chris. If you're listening, I hope you better be listening, because if you're not, we're gonna fight. But
I was still waiting on you to make that damn "why would you do that" soundbite.
Word. I definitely hit you up about it too. But he definitely was not your prototypical man, as far as like
The military
Chris, please
views
don't get offended by this. He wasn't like your traditional manly man. Chris sang, Chris danced, Chris did not have like a deep voice. He didn't lift weights like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He was into like not necessarily popular things like nerd stuff, like reading comic books and playing video games, like nerding out hardcore about this stuff. And like, that's not traditional man things.
Yeah, at least not in the military.
Exactly. We went out to the bar one time and Chris ordered wine. We definitely, razzed him about it, you know what I mean? Because we all got like beer or mixed drinks.
Henny and Coke or whatever, yeah.
I'm on Merlot tonight. Oh, you fancy.
Oh, you fancy?
You know what I'm saying? But he definitely lived within, like, he was comfortable with it.
He lived his life.
I don't give a damn what. And we definitely let him live his life because that's him. And I wish that people just did that.
100%.
Because, me doing whatever I want to allow myself to be happy should not, if it doesn't encroach on your life, you shouldn't have a say in it. You shouldn't be able to comment on it. You shouldn't be able to have any type of say on my life. You know what I mean?
Baby's walking in, man.
What you talking about? I could not fathom what you were speaking about right now.
I just thought I saw a kid pop up on the couch over there. That's all I'm saying.
Nah, they're in their room right now.
Oh, okay. No. That's totally
out
fair.
with mom. You know what I mean? This is my living room behind me. So they couldn't have been there.
No, yeah, totally. I get it. No, I get that. No, but so I think that like, and one of the components of it that makes it so harmful, this toxic masculinity in this version of it, where men have to like pretend like they're more macho than they are, is that like you find yourself in like continually in like bad spots, but then eventually the time comes when you're like, I can't keep up the charade. And then it's like this it like comes I mean, you remember when I left, you were there when I left Japan, and it was like, man, that night, like, I don't know if I didn't cry for a moment the entire night, except for when me and Chris got into a fight. But like, other than that moment, never mind. That's a whole different story. But anyway, other than that moment, like most of that night, I just spent crying because I was just like, I haven't processed emotions for 3 years. I guess now's the time. Here they come.
And that's how it happens, man. Or, you know what I mean? In a more unfortunate turn of events, it comes to the point where you either have to deal with the fact that you've been living a lie, or you double down on that lie.
Right.
Kind of like your example, you know what I mean? Like, yo, how far are you going to take this? Or are you going to stop and live your truest life? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get put in these situations where it's either go big or go home. Yeah. And I mean, 100%. Hopefully people will just go home and rethink their life.
Right, yeah, definitely.
But man, so it's a whole different era that we're growing up in now.
Definitely.
You know, like people's opinions are different, the times are different, everything is different. You know, like I said, the military is changing, diversity and inclusion is a thing now. People are trying to include different demographics of people and things that they didn't have, like representation in, like, so with all of that being said, how do you prepare your kids? How do you prepare, because you have 2 daughters, so how do you prepare them for the time when they may encounter some toxic dude?
So I think so there's like 2 questions to be asked here, and so I will answer the question that you asked and sort of follow up with a sort of similar follow-on question. But like, how do I prep my daughters for like dealing with a dude who's toxic? So first of all, like the number one thing I have to do is acknowledge when I am toxic, because like I'm not above being, I'm like perfectly toxic lots of times. Not by choice, but like undeniably there are times when I am toxic still. And so like I have to acknowledge when something that I've done was done out of insecurity or fear or self-doubt. Because if I just act like, oh, this is just what men do, well, then that just like puts a name, it puts like a fake name to a reaction to a stimulus. Like
and
dad
that makes it
getting
okay.
Dad getting mad is manly when whatever. Well, then it's not actually manly. It's dad being insecure because mom said that he looks like he's put on some weight, and then my daughters came up and grabbed my belly. Well, if I get mad about that, that looks like, this is just manliness. Men get mad about being called fat. No, men, it's not me being manly. It is me being insecure about being insulted. And I need to process that emotion instead of attributing that to the way that dad reacts to things. I need to attribute it to like, oh, there's actually an emotion behind the reaction, and I need to call it. I need to call that by its name. And it's like I try to teach that to my kids anyway. Like, identify your emotion. What is it that you're actually feeling? Because if you just like, oh, nothing. It's just, it is what it is. It's who I am. I'm just like this. Whatever. Never. No, it's not a problem. Well, maybe it isn't a problem, but it should be called by its name. If it is insecurity about your weight, then you should call it insecurity about your weight. I don't like when you do this thing that makes me feel this way. Like, it's like classic marriage counseling, right? Like, or like classic family counseling in general. Like, when you do this, I feel this, is how it should be handled. So I have to, like, the sort of like the precursor to dealing with it is being able to identify the root feeling behind the action. Toxic masculinity isn't a root feeling. No one just feels like a toxic man. You are responding to external stimulus that you don't know how to process, whether it's sadness or embarrassment or whatever. Yeah. The way you respond is what is toxic. It's not feeling that emotion, but unless you can put a name on it, you can't respond to it. So that's what I want my kids to learn. And then I think it's like when you're young, their age and high school age, like most men, dudes, whatever, boys aren't comfortable accepting that. But then going forward, you really want somebody who is willing to have that honest, open discussion with you, and not sort of, this is a fun topic, and I'll just get to it now because I've sort of talked about like the prepping your kids for it, and we'll get to it with the boys too. But like not being someone who propagates or who perpetuates toxic masculinity, and that's what I want my girls to learn: is don't perpetuate this. Don't key in on this weakness that lots of men have. Like, help whoever you're with, whether that be, a male friend or a boyfriend or a down the road husband. Like, don't perpetuate toxic masculinity by calling emotion weakness. Right. And so we're both married, obviously. You got a daughter, I got 2 daughters. Like, how do you see that going? Like, how do you work through that with Lisa, for example? Or how do you see yourself working through that with your daughter, and like not perpetuating that sort of myth that emotion is weakness in men?
So I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about just identifying the things that you're feeling is like basic emotional intelligence. And honestly, if you understand
nothing
about
that is basic, by the way. It's like the most complicated thing.
And I love it. I love it so much, man. I'm a huge guy on emotional intelligence, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Understanding the way that you feel definitely gives you insight and a little bit of knowledge on how to kind of identify how other people feel. I feel like understanding the way that I was interpreting things definitely helps me understand the way that other people may be interpreting things, and it definitely has helped me when I need to talk to somebody about something that they are doing or something that they have done already. But with Kai, because he is so much like me, it's really easy to see why he's struggling with this thing, with this emotion, So I don't want him to feel like he can't cry. I don't want him to feel like, it's inappropriate for him to have these emotions. However, like you said, we need to identify what this emotion is so that we can properly handle it. Yeah. And we have like this emotion wheel. So, you feel angry. Okay, well, let's dig a little bit deeper, because anger is like the overarching like emotion. So let's
Sure.
go a little bit deeper. You feel frustrated, you feel, hurt or whatever the case may be.
Embarrassed,
So,
any of those, yeah.
Yeah. So we go down that path until we get to the actual emotion that he's feeling, and we deal with it in that way. And like
Yeah.
I said, if I can get him to identify his emotions and be able to deal with them, he'll be able to see how other people are feeling because he's felt that before.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
One, I can identify, why this person is acting in the way that they're acting.
Yeah.
And then I can either pull away, I can get myself out of that situation because I already know where this is going to go, or I can try to help that person out.
Yeah,
if
definitely.
it's like my friend who is feeling these feelings that I felt before.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just really it. Like, I'm trying to educate my kids on being emotionally intelligent, being empathetic, to different situations that you may encounter. For my daughter, I definitely fearful.
Or Lisa, I mean,
with
like
her.
Lisa's the grown-up example of what you like sort of want your daughter to be raised as. Like, how
Most
do
certainly.
you demonstrate this with your wife to like help her? I don't know, and I don't know whether she does or doesn't, but like I know like my wife doesn't just inherently understand what manliness is supposed to be because like none of us had great
Right.
examples growing up. So like, how do you sort of like broach this topic with your wife who undoubtedly lived most of her life with men who didn't even know that they were being toxic? Because we all of the people before us didn't even consider this concept. You just hit emotions and like
Nah, this isn't even a thing. Still, a lot of people still don't believe that toxic masculinity is a thing. It's
Right.
It's a BS agenda pushed by the feminist.
sure.
Fun fact: toxic masculinity was a topic, an idea that was thought up by men who felt like they didn't have a space to be their truest self. Men
Interesting.
made up toxic masculinity.
That's
So,
very
yeah.
interesting.
But so are you saying how do me and Lisa kind of talk about toxic masculinity,
Or like
do we,
how do you like how do you sort of like engage in a way like because everyone sort of perpetuates this myth
Yeah.
or this thing that is toxic masculinity. So like how do you sort of like deal with your emotions with her because inherently based on how we were all raised, those emotions are most likely going to be initially at least perceived as weakness because that's how we were all taught.
Right. So, man, I definitely verbalize the way that I'm feeling, and I do it so that Kai can see it, so he can have an example
Yeah.
of what it looks like to kind of identify, verbalize, and deal with your emotions. And I will have like these conversations with Lisa in front of the kids as a way to kind of exemplify that. But also,
Yeah.
if I'm sitting here yelling and cursing at Lisa, one, that teaches my son to identify with me as a male.
Yeah.
Me and Dad, we look alike. We have the same body parts. That's who I identify with.
Yeah.
If I'm treating my wife in X way, then that is okay now. I
Yeah.
can treat people who look like mom in this way because Dad has done it before. And
Right.
the same thing for my daughter. If I'm treating her mom in this way, then that means that I can be treated in this way. If she sees mom doing a thing, then I should probably do that thing because she already does. She identifies with Lisa a lot more than she does with me.
Right.
So, like, she sees mom with hair. I want to have hair too. Like, she literally takes Lisa's hair and puts it on her head so that she can have hair. Because my baby's still bald headed. Y'all don't talk about her though. But yeah, so like I just try to exemplify the person who I want them to be. And I try to exemplify the actions that I would like for them to take. So if you are feeling sad, why? Explore that. Sit in it.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't shy away from these emotions because you're a human being.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like every human is going to have emotions. You're going to have moments of, weakness. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, sit in it, deal with it, identify those identify whatever you feeling and come out of it, man. Don't just sit in it. Sit in it until you are able to identify it and deal with it and then get out of there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, like, again, a lot of this comes down to emotional intelligence, like we were talking about. Like, you have to be able to identify your own emotions and process them as the emotion that they are, not attribute it to a different reaction. which is hard to do. I mean, like realistically, it's hard to admit that you have weakness in general. Like it's not just emotional weakness. In general, it's hard to acknowledge your own weaknesses, but you have to do it.
Yes.
So like
Yes.
going forward in the future, right? Like this is a current problem. This is a problem of the past. How do you like fix this, or like how do we as men fix this? Is it entirely up to raising our kids to do better? Can we educate other men of our peers? Like how do we fix this?
Yes. Yes is the answer.
Okay,
yes.
sure.
Both of those. You know what I'm saying?
So like put some legs on
like,
that. How?
Yo, so like talk to your male friends. Open up. Be open. Like be vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? And that's like a really kind of taboo thing because people love to have like that guard up so you can't, I got this armor on, you can't get through it. You know what I'm saying? I was always kind of living with like my emotions on my sleeve, which is makes me vulnerable. And until I embraced that, I was perpetually angry because I was always getting my feelings hurt.
Yeah.
I just live with my emotions out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But kind of like the inception of this whole idea of toxic masculinity is like, how often do you get to talk to another man about feeling hurt?
Yeah, definitely.
How often do you get to talk to another man about feelings of betrayal?
Yeah.
How often do you get to talk to another man about
feelings
jealousy?
In general?
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you really start to think about it, yo, men don't talk about stuff like this often.
No.
If ever. Like, we
definitely.
talk about sports, we talk about girls, and we talk about the different endeavors that we are going to partake in, whether that be, you know what I mean, partying or some type of new stock, some new investment.
Work, whatever.
Something. Exactly. We don't talk about the way that we be feeling. And it's crazy because I've been privileged to some of the conversations that my wife has with some of her friends, and that is what they talk about how they feel, and they talk about their emotions, they talk about the shit that they dealing with their significant other.
Yeah, definitely.
That don't mean that that's a female emotion. That don't mean that women are the only ones who are allowed to do
We've
that.
We've been conditioned to not talk like that. Yeah,
exactly. So honestly, that's really it. We got to start making it okay to talk about things like this, and we got to show our kids that it's okay to talk about things like this. It's okay to be your truest self. It's fine. You know what I'm saying?
100%. No, so that's actually pretty interesting that you bring that up. So like one of the things that my wife and I have discussed, and like my dad and I talk about, is like, let him in.
What are you talking about?
Oh, sorry. Right. So like me and my dad have talked about this because so like if I talk to him on the phone and I'll be like, hey, I'm going to come out and visit, or like, hey, I got this going on, and his wife will ask like follow-on questions. She'll be like, oh, well, how does Eileen feel about this thing that I heard you and Phil talking about? And my dad's always like, I don't know, I didn't ask that. Or like, oh, how does Phil feel about like this thing that's happening with his work? Like, I heard this is going on. How does he feel about it? Like, I don't know. I didn't ask about that. Like, it's like we as men don't ever, like, not, I won't say don't ever, but like historically don't go like any level deeper than like, what's good? Oh yeah, everything's good, man. Cool.
Yeah, exactly,
and that's it.
Exactly.
And like, unless there's like a topic to discuss, we don't talk about anything. We'll just like sit there and not talk at all. And so like I see this in my relationship with my dad, and I see it like in my relationship with most of the men that I interact with. Like, we don't talk about this kind of shit. And like if I like, that's one of the issues now with like meeting people in this neighborhood that I moved into, because I'm like, man, like I don't really want to have like, I don't want to have a bunch of shallow friendships with people that I can't really talk to them about anything about. Like, I don't want to have just like, oh yeah, hey Jim, how's it going? Oh, just picking up the paper. How are the kids? Ah, they're good. Yeah, me too. Thanks. Take it easy, Jim.
There it is. All right, bye.
All right, yeah. Like I don't want friends like that. So if I'm gonna develop friends, I want them to be like friends that I can talk to about things.
Hey, let me hold on. Time out real quick.
All right.
Yeah, man. So I definitely talk about things with my dad, but he definitely still
Ain't about it.
subscribes to a lot of the things that we were just talking about. But I mean, I think he acknowledges it though. I think he kind of knows that about himself, and you know, he just set in his ways, you know.
So
And
here's
what it is.
on this topic, and I'm just curious, like just sort of like it's not a get into it discussion. So like, who, if you are having problems in your marriage, or like you're just like having like not like, oh, we're on the verge of splitting up, but just like you guys are beefing on something, you want someone to talk to about like is there a man in your life that you'd like be willing to open up to about your actual feelings? So I know like you have, I don't know her name, I think whatever, you have a friend that's a girl that is like you identify as your best friend, but like you
Chelsea.
have okay, that's what I thought it was, but I didn't want to say and be wrong. So like is there a single man in your life who you would have that discussion with?
Yeah, so if me and Lisa are having problems, man, I feel like if I call you a friend, I can come and talk to you about whatever. I'm no longer embarrassed about the way that I feel. And you know, it's crazy. And man, honestly, we can probably keep going on and on about this topic because now that you bring that up, it just made me remember some other things. But if I call you my friend, I can come and talk to you about whatever I want now. And I often remind people, you know, I'll say things and the new, not new, but people will be like, pause. If you say something that is kind of ambiguous, it can be taken one way or another. Like, oh, pause on that, man. Yo, you kind of sus. I'm like, I'm a grown ass man. You know what I was saying when I said what I said. Shut up.
Right. Yeah.
So, but now that I feel like more confident in who I am, and yeah, just now that I feel more confident, I don't care. I can talk to whoever about whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
But I would need to be, if I'm talking to you, one, I need to consider you a friend. Two, I need to feel like you're going to have some valid input.
Sure.
So I'm not going to talk to.
That's fair.
No, I'm not going to talk to my single friend about my marriage problems because
Right.
you don't know. You
haven't lived that life.
you don't know it all. But I mean, I definitely will talk to them about problems that I have with Lisa, though. You know what I'm saying? Like if I don't like something that Lisa is doing, or if I feel like, you know, hurt, jealous, anything, you know what I mean? Yo, man, I ain't like when she did this, man. She acting X, Y, and Z. Made me feel like X, Y, and Z. But mostly I talk to my dad about that stuff, yo.
Yeah. That's cool, by the way.
Yeah, man. Well, like, do you ever talk to anybody about the stuff? Like, when you be feeling however you feel, do you talk?
Nah, man. Keep that shit bottled up, baby. No, like realistically, I don't. I don't have what you would. All right, man. So we're gonna get into this real quick. This probably ain't gonna make the pod, but we'll get into it. Maybe it will. So like, I don't really have friends per se. I have what I have my entire life referred to as basketball friends. Someone might refer to them as single serving friends. I have friends that serve a single purpose.
Okay.
So like basketball friends are people that I went and played basketball with.
Got you. I played basketball with these cats.
I play basketball with these people.
I'm not gonna hit you up about nothing else but basketball.
Right. That's it. Oh, you guys want to get together? If I say y'all want to get together, they're gonna say which park or which court. There's not gonna be like, yeah, where do you want to go? There's none. Like that's not the type of friends that I had. And like I always had people like, so I had like church friends that I met with at church, and I had basketball friends that I met with in basketball.
That's
and I
right.
had
you was a young pastor Murphy.
Well, even before that though, like even when I was just going to church, I was just like I had like my church friends who didn't cross streams with my basketball friends, who didn't cross streams with my whatever other friends, and then I had my family who's like the different. I didn't view them as friends at the time, though now I have started to. But so like I didn't. Probably out of insecurity, if I had to guess, I didn't like invest in friendships as a kid. I had one really good friend through fifth grade, and then he went to a different school, and then I went to a different school, and then we didn't cross paths again. Anyway, so like after 5th grade, though, I didn't have like what I would have categorized as like a best friend for the rest of my life until like now.
Yikes.
Yeah, I know, it's weird. And then like I had someone else that I trusted later in life, and that sort of went a certain way. And then now I have like my family, and like you are the only like other person that I talk to outside of my family, really. So it's like you, and then like my immediate family, and my sister and my cousins. But like otherwise, and then like I have like people that I work with, but like we don't hang out outside of work.
Yeah, y'all don't talk.
No, I mean like we just don't hang out outside of work.
Yeah.
Like I don't live near where they live. A lot of them are single. The ones who aren't single live even further away from where I live. And so it's just like, well, like, you know, it's like you said, like, I'm not going to talk about my marriage problems for someone who's not married. And if, you know, like you're not in a similar situation as me, then it's like, well, I'm not going to get into like, yeah, my kids are acting crazy. My wife's on her period, and so she's been mad for 3 days. And my kids are just like making it worse because they keep waking up in the middle of the night, and she's already not getting any sleep. And yeah, like that's not a story that a dude who has no kids and isn't married wants to hear. It's like there's no point in going into that with someone,
or
right?
Like he can't relate, man.
Yeah, it's just like that's not a relatable story. Yeah, like oh yeah, I bet that'd be tough. Like yeah, well, I remember every once in a while I wake up in the night and have to pee too, so I get it. That's tough.
Yeah, man. You know, one time there was just this really loud car in the neighborhood, and it woke me up right in the middle of my sleep, and I didn't know what to do.
So yeah, there's not like a singular person that I talk to about my feelings.
Dang.
Yeah, whatever. I should get better at that. I acknowledge.
Yeah, man. Yo, I definitely highly recommend it. You know.
Well, I mean, if you lived, you know, within 12 time zones of me, it'd be a little bit easier to talk to you.
That is a fact, and it's a fact that will be changing soon. So you know.
Yes, it's gonna make podcasting so much easier too.
Hell yeah, yo! But I think, man, like I said, we could go on and on and on about this, man. Because, like, honestly, this touches on so many different things in society, for real, man. And
yeah,
we're definitely not going to do it justice.